Hello, my name is Paula Anderson, and today we're going to kick off Candid Conversations with Entrepreneurs. I am a journalist with Memphis Small Business Quarterly, and it is a magazine that features emerging and enterprising entrepreneurs in the city of Memphis. And today we have Chamel Jackson, who is a local author, that's going to be joining us today. How you doing, Chamel?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. So let's talk a little about your entrepreneurship journey. I know that you started writing a book a few years ago, and so how has that process been?
My journey as an entrepreneur, well, first of all, I didn't plan on being one. I went to school for accounting, undergrad, and then I had an idea about opening a business, but I wasn't really serious about it. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of years later, I went into teaching. And so that was a totally different field for me as well. But in the midst of that, I started, in my personal life, I was being ridiculed or teased about wanting to be waiting till I'm married to involved in sexual activity. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what pushed me to go into entrepreneurship, because I wanted to write a book.
Okay. And so in writing the book, so you majored in accounting. So how has that switch been from being an accounting major to being an author?
It actually wasn't hard, because being an author, I've been writing about personal experiences. And actually, when I was little, I would write, and I would have a journal. So I always wrote out my feelings. If I was angry, sad, or really excited about something, I would just write. So going into being an author was actually a smooth transition, but it's the entrepreneur thing that I had to get more used to, because I was like, I want to stay behind the scenes. That's kind of why I probably did accounting, because I want to stay at the desk. I didn't want to talk to anybody much, but entrepreneur has taken me out of my shell a whole lot, and so that was the hard transition, trying to go from behind the scenes into the forefront of everything.
Okay, so what is your definition of being an entrepreneur? So now that you're an author, but we know that with entrepreneurship, you're trying to solve a problem with the book that you've written. So tell us some of the challenges or some of the successes that you've been faced as an entrepreneur.
As an entrepreneur, you have to be a risk taker. Just within itself, entrepreneur is a risk, because you don't know, not really sure how it's going to play out, what obstacles you're going to come across, or what challenges, or even the accomplishments you're going to have. You don't know about those, so it's just very risky. And so for me, the challenge has been, what's going to happen if I put this out? Are people going to receive it? Did I do this right? Did I say this right? It's risky. That's all I can say. It's very risky, and so you have to embrace taking risks if you want to become an entrepreneur.
Okay, so let's talk about one of your books, Wait, which is Women and Intimate Tales.
Women and Intimate Tales, yes. It was a long journey to write this book. The idea came in 2008, and I was not too long out of undergrad, and that's what go back to that personal experience, being teased about wanting to wait until marriage for sex. And so I didn't publish it until 2016, September 2016. And in that time, I was scared. Again, that risk. You have to be brave in order to take that risk. And it's also because it's my own life. I was about to write about my own life, and that everybody else want to share what's going on in their life to the public. And so that's a risk as well. And so during that time, I procrastinated. I don't want to write it. I work on it every now and then. But then I finally got to the point, okay, I'm going to do it. 2014, I'm going to do it. It actually was Valentine's Day when I figured I'm going to write this book, because I saw somebody else do it. So that was kind of inspiration. A lot of times we don't do things unless we see somebody else do it, and that can become your inspiration. It was for me anyway. And so the book came after the company, because I talked to someone about a website. He was an entrepreneur as well. And so he said, why don't you start a company? I'm like, I just want to write a book. I didn't want to do all of what he was trying to say, but long story short, I started the business Breaking It Down with C. Jackson.
Okay, so what kind of response have you gotten from the book, since the book is geared toward women and girls wanting to remain celibate or abstinent until they get married? So what kind of experiences have you had from sharing that type of story?
a lot of people say it's real. And even though my intention was for teenagers, as years went by, I found that a lot of young women in that college age and even after college have embraced the story as well. I think they really embraced my story, and a lot of things that happened in the book about me was in my adulthood. So I figured, okay, that's probably why they embraced it so well. So they say it's real, it's honest. A lot of teen girls need to hear it, and even boys too. They say even boys need to hear the story as well, because a man did read it, and so he found it. A man did read it. He gave a review on it. He was like, "Wow, that is something. You basically turn your pain into a ministry," is what how he or your misery into a pain is how he described it. But I just, they said real and honest. I think a lot of people are looking for honesty and realness, and to be genuine about what's going on.
Okay, so can you share something that's in the book with our viewers about what you want them to know, just kind of like a tidbit?
In Weight, which stands for Women in Intimate Tales, I want you to not just look at it as don't have sex, but why and how you can wait. And that was the whole point of me doing all of this, is to say, okay, this is why, because sometimes teens want to know why I can't do this. Just don't tell me don't do this, but why can't I do it? Because they're going to try to figure out why I can't do it, or why is it people telling me no, I want to do it.
Okay, so you said you only had one guy. So is that kind of like one of your marketing strategies to let men and boys know about your book as well? Because of course it takes two people.
It does.
And we always just tell the girls and not tell the boys,
right.
Then it's like the message is not really getting communicated.
Right. And that was another thing I had a problem with, because I wanted to write a men's book too, one for boys too, but it just so happens the second book turned out to be totally different from what I expected. Another thing with entrepreneurship, it never goes how I planned sometimes, how you plan it. And so the second book was not for me. It's not for me. It's for women. So, but eventually, I'll get to the men's book or in the boys' book. Eventually, I don't know when, but eventually.
Okay. So, what do you like to do when you're not writing or doing whatever professionally? What are some personal things that you like to focus on?
You say outside of professional or writing?
Yeah, outside of professional.
Okay. I love to listen to live music. I love that. Where it's local, somewhere else. I like concerts. I like to bowl.
Okay.
That's just going to the movies when I can, and I love music. I do really like that. That's good for me, and I like to try new restaurants as well.
Okay. All right. So when I met you, you were in a relationship with a guy.
I was.
And you guys were waiting.
Yeah.
And so just kind of walk us through how your book was being used to kind of tell your own story and like where you are now with that.
Whew. As I said, I did not plan on writing this second book the way I planned. This was supposed to be a book for men. Like the second book was supposed to be an example for men, like, as I said. But the guy that I was dating in the first book, we broke up last year, and it was hard. It was devastating. It was painful. It was whatever word you can synonym can go with devastating. It was all of that. And so in the midst of that healing process, I journaled. That's what I do. I journal, and the journal turned into a video series. The video series turned into a book. And so that's where the second book came, Girl, Forget All That, Moving Forward After a Relationship Ends, Part 1. And so it includes my story and 8 other women. We talk about our most difficult breakup, and to let women know you're not alone in this process, and help you heal. So again, like the first book, it mentions my story first, and then the other women, and then the second one, the same thing, my story, and then other women.
Okay, so what did you learn from the 8 women who were experiencing the same things? I mean, what was it that they shared with you that kind of helped you through your process of healing?
Ooh, they all had the feelings were the same as how we felt after the breakup, but our process was different. And some of the things that they did, I thought I didn't do, but I didn't think about. Like one of the women said set a timer, because when you cry about the situation, because you're gonna cry about it. And so I was like, I never thought about this. Set a timer when you cry, because eventually you gotta stop crying. But as days go by, you cry less. And so those one of the things that stuck out to me.
Okay.
And just a different process, how they, and it was different for everybody. No story was the same. Like the feelings was the same, but their process was different. That's kind of what I like to do, give different sides instead of not just one person, because you may be able to relate to my story or somebody else's story. And that's how you put everything together to help your own self.
Okay, so crying, was there any other processes that you can share with us without sharing a whole lot about your book?
Some didn't date for a while. Took the time to work on themselves, and a lot of them, well, most of them looked at their own self and what they do in the relationship that was, I want to say toxic. Like they looking back, there were some red flags. Just for me, there were some red flags that we sometimes ignore. And then looking back, okay, to prepare for the next relationship, I'm not going to do this.
Okay. So for someone that's just learning about Chamel Jackson and they know that you've written Wait, so which one of these books do you recommend that they read first? Wait, or because one is about not being intimate, because I'm sure that when you become intimate with someone, that makes the relationship, it makes it harder for you to really break away.
Correct.
When there's intimacy.
Correct.
So there's a book that I've read called Boundaries in Dating.
I heard of that. I haven't read it.
So it's written from a Christian perspective, and it teaches you not to really go to that. It's like it's 5 stages of dating. Teaches you not to go to that 5th stage, which is physical intimacy, until you really know whether or not you really want to be with that person long term. So which one would you recommend?
I would recommend that we wait first, because it introduces me as an author and as a storyteller. Really, it introduces, and then the wait goes into the relationship as far as what we did or didn't do to wait. And so, but when you get to the second book, it's more or less our relationship, not so much how we walk the celibacy journey. So that is you kind of got to put both of them together. It goes a different side when you get to the second book, but the first book introduces me, my flow, and how I write and storytell.
Okay, all right. And so with the second book, so who are you targeting with this book?
With the second book, I'm targeting young women, early 20s, early 30s, because I felt, and being in my early 30s, I was like, you're thinking this relationship is going to last. You're thinking this one is going to go to marriage, and then you get that, no, it didn't last. Okay, what's next? But versus when I was in my earlier 20s, like not high school, college, when you broke up, okay, it may have been sad, but it wasn't like, oh, my life is over. Well, my life is still not over, but when you're younger, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to date somebody else. It's not the end of the world, but it had a different effect. And so that's really who I was talking to the women who thought that this relationship was going to be it, and now you got to start all over. And so, but how did you process that? Like, how do you get past it's over and then to it's going to be somebody else?
Okay. And so what do you think are ways to help them to understand when that relationship is not like the last relationship, meaning like it's not going to lead to marriage? How do you help them in your book to understand that?
You're saying if someone is dating someone and how to identify if it's not going to lead to marriage?
Yeah.
What they're talking about and their actions as well. Their actions need to line up with what they're saying, because in the beginning, well, I don't want to get too deep into my story, but I'll share this part.
Okay.
In the beginning, there was an urgency for the relationship to go to marriage. And so a lot of people probably think that marriage was never talked about.
Okay.
But it was in the beginning. So
you're saying with
my personal story.
Okay.
And my personal story.
Okay.
There was a discussion on marriage, and everything you do to prepare for marriage was happening. The conversation, the goals, the vision, all of that was happening. But things turned, and so it, as you can see, it did not lead to marriage. And so that's kind of where you need to look at the conversation, the action that person is taking, what kind of question they're asking you, because those questions going to line up with the future. Like if they're not including their plans, you and their plans for the future, then it's probably marriage not going to be in the future.
So what have you been doing to kind of work towards being an entrepreneur? Like, are there any resources that you're taking advantage of? Because like you said, entrepreneurship is not something that you really wanted to do. So you kind of had to learn some things. So
yes.
tell us what you learned as an entrepreneur, and maybe something that could help another individual that's trying to learn how to write a book or want to write a book.
It's been 5.5 years so doing this, and Memphis has so many resources that I don't know how I tapped into all this. I just started going to one event and one event led to another, and and now people always wonder, Chamel, how do you know about this? I said, I just go to an event on Facebook, and then I meet somebody there, and that's just how it happened. And so I've done SCORE Memphis. I had a mentor with SCORE, and they are phenomenal. Like, if you're lost, you got to start somewhere, get a mentor, and SCORE is perfect where they have free workshops, and there's stuff they do you have to pay for, but it's probably like one thing that I know about that you had to pay for, and it was probably like $25. So it's not expensive. And just one thing I did have to do, sometimes you will have to go ahead and make an investment into your own business and your life. And so 2017, I did a coaching program based out of Florida. And now they have been a huge help. I did it for 6 weeks, but after that, I joined a group. It's a month, you pay a monthly fee. And so you can leave whenever you want to leave. It's month to month. But they have been helpful with the resources and knowledge, information, just to guide you. Because it can be overwhelming. And that's one thing I had to learn, like, take one thing at a time. And that made things better when I just tackle one goal at a time and get some help, because you cannot do this alone. You can't. You don't try. I tried.
Okay. So as we wrap up, tell us something that you would like for the viewers to know about what you have coming up, how they can get access to your books if they want to make a purchase.
All right. Let's see. You can access both books on my website, www.breakingitdowncj.com, and they're also on Amazon as well. If you want a signed copy of each book, you can get them off my website. They're both $15 plus shipping and handling on the website and Amazon. And I'm just looking forward to some future vendor events, book fairs that I got coming up in this month, actually, in Whitehaven, at the Whitehaven Library. I'll be doing a book fair there, and that's pretty much what I have on my calendar as of right now with the books. Well, the first book anyway. Okay. Oh, second book. I'm sorry, the second book.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Chamel. Enjoyed talking to you about both your books.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right.
All right.